Cashiers of Reddit. What is the most suspicious set of items a customer has purchased? Man bought $800 of Roblox gift cards, and when I questioned him on it, he said I asked my daughter what she wanted for Christmas, and she said she wanted Roblox shit. So now, for not being specific, she can try and find a way to spend her Christmas budget of Robux. I really aspire to be more like this man. Not a cashier, but I've bought suspicious items together. I walked to the store to get a bathtub plug to try a bath bomb, but just as I left, my mom asked me to get a toaster. I did. The lady working the stand looked at me, "Are you okay?" I didn't realize what it looked like at the moment. I once bought nothing but a toy for my 2-year-old nephew, a bottle of motor oil, and condoms at the same time. All for separate reasons, but it was not lost on me what connections could be made. I worked at a hamburger place. We would portion ground beef in plastic bags. Management was awful, and we ran out of things constantly. I was usually the only employee with a car, so I'd go to the store down the street and buy like 5 to 10 boxes of 200 number flip-top plastic sandwich bags. I realized after while they thought I was a drug dealer. Razors, kitty litter, and lube. I feel sorry for your cat. I bought a case of 100 shotgun shells and a loofah at Walmart once with my buddy, and the cashier was like, "What are you two boys up to?" I once bought 4 cans of whipped cream, chocolate sauce, sprinkles, and condoms. Funniest bit is that I didn't even think of how it looked. The first 3 items were for my daughter's birthday party, and the condoms were just a "oh yeah, we're out" afterthought. The cashier, male, checked me out, then winked and said, "Now you have a nice night." And I sort of stared at him for a moment until my brain fired up and made the connection. Then I laughed and said, "Oh, don't worry, I will." My husband still makes fun of me. Wouldn't say suspicious, but the amount of people who came in to buy large quantities of poppy seeds and a 2LT of soda. I later understood what they did, but for the longest time I was confused as to why so many people were using their foot stamp card to buy so many bread sprinkles. This is only one item. It's the circumstances that make it suspicious. My brother was driving along behind someone who hit a deer. They stopped, and he also stopped. As is common in rural areas, he asked if they were going to eat it, and when they said no, offered to clear it up for them. He started butchering the deer, and after gutting and a few other things, realized that he had nothing in his car to put the meat in. So he went to the nearest store to get something. He got the weirdest look from the cashier. It was only then that he realized that he had walked into a gas station late at night, bloody to the elbows, and bought black plastic garbage bags. Worked at Barnes and Nobles for a year. If there is something I learned from working there, is old people are freaky AF. This 72-year-old woman is checking out with me, and she has a couple of books, a Bible, a home and garden book, a book on grieving, and a book about sex toys, different shapes, sizes, and how to use them. We are trained not to question/comment on what purchases are being made if the purchase includes sexual content. I apparently forgot my training and said, "Looks like someone is going to have a lot of fun tonight." Insert awkward stare and silence. She looks at me and says, "Praising Jesus is always fun if you have the right friend." I giggled awkwardly and finished ringing her up. Turns out, the sex toy book was for her granddaughter, and the Bible was for her and her congregation. Till this day, I still feel like Granny was going to a weird gangbang Bible study group. Once, when I was younger, 17, 18ish, I went to the store with some friends and bought several 1.2 liter sodas, a bottle of muriatic acid, and a roll of tinfoil. As we were leaving the store, a plainclothes security guy stopped us and said, "I've been to bomb school too, boys." At first I thought he had said I've been to bang school, and I was trying to figure out what kind of bang we could be making and where one would sign up to go to bang school. Anyway, he took down our names. Looking back on it, I probably didn't have to give him my name, but I was young and obviously stupid, and told us that if he heard about any bombs going off in the area, he would send the cops to our houses. We still blew up the bottles. I don't think they could even properly be called bombs, and we never got in any trouble. As part of a lost bet, a friend had to do a dare. We sent them to the supermarket with a specific set of actions in mind. 1. Go to the cash register with a big box of condoms. 2. Realize you don't have the money to buy them. Go put it back. 3. Go to the same cash register again, holding cling film and rubber bands. I was the customer. I bought an old lady style cardigan, a ladies singlet and a G-string thong. I'm male. I realized how bad it looked at the register. I was also 26. I work at a craft store. This isn't really suspicious, but some sorority girls came in and bought an unfinished wooden paddle among other things. Selling gram scales was always fun. Our EPIS system would direct us to ask if they would like a relevant item. So whenever anyone bought gram scales, we had to ask the customer if they would like any little plastic baggies, and then ask to take their personal information to sign them up for promotional stuff. Obligatory, not a cashier, not my purchase, etc. My 6-year-old cousin was murdered in 2002. Her killer was intending to kill her father, not her. Once they arrested him, they were able to pull store surveillance and a receipt. The sick fuck had stopped at a store and bought a butcher knife, Coleman fuel and lighters on his way to commit the crime. That's always haunted me a bit. I worked in a pharmacy here in the UK and a customer brought in a very old chemistry set so they get the relevant items and teach their kid. It wasn't long after the 7/7 terror attacks in London and some of the ingredients looked familiar. I asked the pharmacist to double check what was needed, and she asked the customer to go into the consultation room for a quick chat. Turns out some of the ingredients could be combined to make heavily corrosive chemicals, and in the worst instance a very crude explosive device. We denied him the sale and the guy never kicked up a fuss, just laughed and asked that we throw the box away at our end. Someone bought 12 bunches of celery, 2 grocery bags full. Not sure what they were doing with it, because I don't know who eats that much celery. I'm not a cashier, but as a sex worker I'm ever so grateful for self-serve checkout. Always got, depending on the person, weird / cheeky / horrified looks when stocking up on various sizes of condoms, lubricant, sea sponges, sandwich bags, baby wipes and massage oil. Lol. I worked as a cashier for a certain hardware store chain that has an affinity for the colors blue and red. My most memorable customer was a younger Hispanic guy. He approached me with a pair of tin snips and asked, quietly, if I thought that they would break through the typical locks used by storage units, the round silver ones. I told him that he'd need bolt cutters or an angle grinder would be his best bet. I helped him find a cheaper angle grinder and a variety of discs. I never asked what he was using them for, but he said his key broke off in his unit's lock. I still wonder sometimes if he used it to commit crimes or not. Not a cashier, but we sell very niche industrial equipment. We received an order for north of 200k USD from an obscure post-USSR state. They didn't seem to understand what they were buying, what it was used for. They didn't care about any of the specs or configuration options, but they were ready to wire the money ASAP. They just wanted formal invitations into us for 12 people to come visit for training. For very specific date range, for 2 weeks, normally takes 1 day. Didn't sit well with management, so they started asking follow-up questions and the guys disappeared. About 10 years ago, I went to the store to buy condoms and called my wife to see if she needed anything. She told me to buy our toddler some new underwear. I went through the self-checkout that day. I don't think you're going to get a whole lot of cashier responses to this one. Having worked as a cashier for many years, I can say in all honesty that when you're doing it, you're totally on autopilot. Like, ask me the clue code for any vegetable you want. I absolutely won't know it. But put me on a register right now, and I could bang it out no problem. I don't think it's particularly suspicious what they bought, but how they got them. I was working at Sam's Club a few years ago. It's a warehouse store, a lot like Costco. I go in, and very early on in the day a man comes up with 9 flats of food. Over $2,000 to $3,000 worth of food. Ribs, steaks, lobster, potatoes, all of everything I could see. This dude was eating like a king. He then paid it off using only 8 food cards, multiple cards. I don't know how he got them, but he used at least 6 of them. A single own brand pot noodle, £0. 37, which he tried to pay for with a £50 note and a no. Could you just change this massive wad of cash while your till's open? Yeah, right you are pal. Closely followed by the £1 pregnancy test and a £30 bottle of vodka. Whichever way you look at it, that isn't ending well. As for all the lube slash condoms slash cock rings slash diarrhea pills etc. We literally don't give a shit. We won't remember you, unless you act weird about it. I only remember the guy who came in to buy a new skirt and tights once a week, because he kept going on about how they were definitely for his sister who couldn't come to the shop herself. Mate, I literally don't care if you want to wear a skirt. It's 2019. People are doing a lot weirder. I worked for Walmart as a trainee for 2 months and I remember some guy trying to get a pillow set with little frills on the side, not packaged, and it didn't have a price tag, so someone told me to go find the item with a price tag so they can ring it up. I didn't find it, but I found a single pillow that was a different color from his, and it hit me that he just grabbed a bunch of them and tied them together. Just a bunch of gift cards. Unfortunately, nothing too interesting. He came up and tried to buy about $500 worth of cards. I needed a manager to approve it, so I told him and picked up my phone to call. He said what? Why? Never mind. And ran out the doors. Condoms and fly spray. I probably wouldn't have even noticed if the young couple buying them hadn't been very insistent that they weren't going to be used together. Also, the couple buying strawberries and squirty cream at 9:30 at night on Valentine's Day. I was at a hardware store and I bought a hatchet because I need to trim some limbs on a tree which overhung my roof. On my way to the checkout I remembered that I needed some heavyweight twine and duct tape to tie up some boxes that I'd been meaning to put in the attic. It wasn't until I laid them all out on the counter that I realized how it looked. Gulp. Once I went to the convenience store to buy multiple stuff, but the first 3 items I give the cashier are a small notebook, a pen and some razors, which I don't even remember what they were for. I also wore all black. The guy freaked out and asked me if everything was okay. I later realized he thought I was about to kill myself. I know it shouldn't be funny, but I laughed. One time I was in line behind 2 very clean cut guys, slim, well dressed, short hair and mustaches. One was buying a box of latex gloves and the other had 2 cans of Ready Whip. In the same line were a pair of obese young women, one with a large cake, the other with a box of ice cream and a copy of TV Guide. Apparently it was story night at Albertsons. I'm not a cashier, but I saw some guy buying like 15 gallons of Bleaku and a mop and plastic wrapping and stuff like that. Mostly the ordinary stuff you'll see a serial killer buying, and the guy looked like he hasn't slept in days. What I suspect is that he did the thing from Dexter where he wraps his victims in plastic wrapping and stabs them, then cleans up the mess. Not a cashier but a customer. So I was in a store with a small pharmacy on the side and I went in to buy condoms. I was going to my GF's house and I figured I might as well come prepared. I was going with a few friends though, one of which was getting a ride to my GF's house before, so he came into the store with me. He went to buy some chips while I went to find the pharmacy. I go in, choose a pack, and as I'm getting the receipt, my friend walks up behind me. I wasn't worried until the cashier looked back and forth between us a few times and I realized that he was seeing 2 guys buying condoms. I live in Tanzania. Homosexual intercourse is illegal here and frowned upon. I told the cashier they were for someone else, but to this day I wondered what would have happened if that guy decided to get the attention of the cop sitting right outside the building. I'm a cashier at a local hardware store. Sometimes people buy weird shit, like the guy who bought 6 double packs of gallon jugs of Drano. Like, bro, call a plumber. Local businesses also have charge accounts to use. A funeral home guy recently came in and bought 3 hoses, sprayers and about 8 pairs of pliers. What the fuck is going on there? Or the lady from the local hair salon who bought out our stock of needle nose pliers, about 12, then ordered site to store another 10 pair, all charged to the salon account. That one was really confusing.